Thursday edition of the Just Baseball Show. I'm Aram Layton. He's Jack McMullen, and we've got a few different topics to get into, including Oneil Cruz defying physics and basically any way that we understand it in the sport of baseball. Bad news on the injury front with Xander Bogaerts and Garrett Whitlock. Kyle Hendricks goes to the bullpen. That's interesting. Never really thought that he would ever go to the bullpen at this stage of his career. Interested to see how that looks. We'll talk about that. Josh Hader, really fascinating story on ESPN about the way that he was having himself handled and the way that he went about his business, in 2019 and why we never really saw him go in multiple innings. That's a whole thing to unpack. Really excited to get into that. And then I just wanted to talk about what in the world David Fry is doing because I love highlighting awesome feel-good stories like this. David Fry has been awesome for the Guardians. We're going to dive into that a little bit as well. Of course, this is always brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. You can use our code JustBaseball to have a no-sweat bet. You put your bet down. If it doesn't hit, you can get that money back in bonus bets. Or if it does hit, congratulations, you get that money as if you won like a regular bet. So why not try it? No sweat there at all. Link is in the episode description. Jack, we have some fun ones in here. I know Oneil Cruz is a fun topic because you've watched this guy, I wouldn't say all the way through, but you got to watch him in AAA and kind of the final stages of that development. He's still developing, and that's the crazy part. So we'll start there, but you just got off of another game here, and I think you've had 7 and change hours of baseball games over the last 18 hours. Here's a better way I should pose this question. Of your last 24 hours, how many hours of them have been calling an active AAA baseball game?
7, maybe 7:15. You factor in just baseball shows as well. I've said 10x the amount of words into a hot mic than I have off a hot mic. It's crazy. I'm just hot mic, go to bed, wake up, hot mic, let's go. But you know what? It's good. It feeds the ego, which is really nice. But man, Kate Horton looked really good. Can I say that? Kate Horton looked really good yesterday. So
I was going to ask you about that on the call up because I saw through the first 3, punched out 5, and I'm like, let's go. I get to ask Jack about that. So we'll definitely break into that on the call up, but it was probably refreshing after what was it? What was the final score last night?
So
on Wednesday night?
It was 18-6. So it was 3-hour, 21-minute game with a 39-minute delay. So literally we were supposed to hit the air at 7:38. And they're in Des Moines, Iowa right now. So that's Central. I'm on Eastern. So they start at 6:38. We start at 7:38. So I left the ballpark at midnight. We were supposed to go on at 7:38. We got done at 11:38. And then 3:27 game goes 11 innings. So 18-6. And then 8-7 in 11. How about this for the final play yesterday in Indianapolis, Iowa? Ground ball, infield in, runners at first and third, right? Tie game, 1 out. No, runners at second and third, 1 out, okay? Tie game. Does the runner at second matter?
No. Wait, so explain it again?
Second and third, 1 man out, tie game in the bottom of the 11th. Or does the runner at second base matter?
No.
Does the out at first base matter?
You said 1 out?
1 out.
No.
So infield's in. Ground ball hit by Miles Mastrobuoni back in Des Moines. Ground ball kind of bobbled by the second baseman for Indy. Runner comes in to score. Okay, game over. He picks it up and throws to first base. The ground out's important. I was just so thrown watching, and I was like, what did we just see? But it was a real limp to the finish line there. Absolutely bizarre.
That's when you know the game's gone too long.
Yeah, a walk-off ground out. That's what we got.
I got a walk-off ground out too, and it was, he didn't go to first with it, but I was at the Cubs game, TBS game. It was actually a lot of fun. Cubs, Braves, we had Morton versus Assad. Great crowd at Wrigley, as always. Morton threw the ball well. Assad honestly threw the ball pretty well, too. A fly ball off of the bat of Arcia. The wind was crazy.
Dude,
I think the over-under from our friends at MGM was 11.5 and ended up going under. But when I saw that first home run off the bat of Arcia, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to see a slugfest. It looked like a routine fly ball. It ended up 20 rows deep. I think it had an expected batting average of 290, and it went 420. But ended up being a nice little pitcher's duel both ways. The bullpens were really fun, but the walk-off was hilarious. Like, usually Cubs fans are way more energetic and loud, but I don't think they knew that the ball bounced off of the ground when Nico Hoerner hit it. So I think they thought it was an infield pop-up. So it was like a chopper straight into the ground. Runner comes home to score. By the time the guy, first base thing with Matt Olson caught the chopper, it was too late. But people were like, wait, they didn't call him out. The run scored. Oh, yay, let's go. It was like the most anticlimactic walk-off ever, but got the job done. Nico Hoerner off the IL or, just returns and ends up, putting the game-winning run across there. But I wanted to shout out a couple relievers from the Cubs because they need it badly. Luke Little came in and shoved, and he's walking off the mound just fired up. I loved that. Hayden Wesneski in this reliever role all of a sudden has looked really good. That was impressive as well. But I really liked what I saw from Charlie Morton, dude. The guy continues to just not age, and it's been really amazing to watch him do what he's doing. And Ronald Acuna just continuing to just not look right. I don't know. It's just been frustrating. It's a guy that even saw the ball well off last time out, and then just another tough one out there. But it was a good ball game. It was a lot of fun.
So when can we officially call Ronald Acuna an odd year thing, like an odd year merchant? Because 2021, he was awesome before the ACL tear. 2022, not great, right? Really underwhelming. And I know that he was kind of recovering from that ACL. 23 lights the world on fire. 24, underwhelming. Like, Yohan Moncada is that guy. It's the every other year merchant thing. I'm curious if it's the San Francisco Giants of the 2010s, Yohan Moncada and Ronald Acuna Jr.
I'd say mid-June. I'll give him one more month to get this thing right. But yeah, I'd like to see him get this thing right sooner rather than later. He just doesn't look like Ronald Acuna up there. By the way, before I forget, Junior Caminero, we talked about him last episode. Durham Bulls just put their lineup out for Wednesday as we're recording this. And he is batting leadoff and playing second base.
Cool.
So second base, again, I think every time he's playing second base, it's a good sign. And the leadoff, I think, is just to get him as many ABs as possible. But Caminero might be coming soon. It seems like every time he's playing second base.
Just wait till they put him in left field, right field, wherever.
We're not far away from them doing some crazy stuff like that.
Put the gear on, Junior.
That would be fire. If he could even be remotely passable back there, it would be. They'd actually, their whole outlook would change.
Without good catcher for the first time. They'd have a good catcher for the first time since their existence.
Yeah. I don't know. It was the last good Rays catcher.
I know Zunino put up a decent year for them war-wise, but
yeah. Diana Navarro.
Oh, dude. Nice deep cut.
Yeah, it was a nice deep cut. All right. Well, let's talk about, where do you want to start here? We'll start with Oneil Cruz.
I'm in.
What was the exact stat?
He has the two hardest hit balls of the season. He had, I think it was 120.4 on a single in the third. And then it was 116 on a double to left center. And then the hit of all hits. Game-tying RBI double with 2 men out in the bottom of the ninth. Came in at 100.3. Came out at 121.5. Hardest hit batted ball of the season in the third. He breaks that in the ninth. So he has the two hardest hit balls in Major League Baseball this year in the same game and 3 batted balls over 116. Craziest thing that I want to show you. I did this with the iPad Paul Skeens on that pitch that 2-2 to Michael Busch that he was perfect on. I just want to show you where 100.3 was. Where that pitch was that he hit 121.5. Because you think, right over the heart of the plate, right? He's going to get his swing off. Look at where that is. That's off the plate, low and inside. He drops the barrel on it, in at 100, out at 121.5.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
It's alien life form shit.
It's just the challenge is because he's so long levered. I mean, that's what generates the unbelievable bat speed, but at the same time, it's it also is why he swings and misses. It's also why he has to decide earlier, and that's why when he's deciding earlier, he's been chasing a bit more. If there's a world where he can see the ball a bit deeper and he can walk a bit more, holy crap! It's game over at that point. And that's what I'm excited for, is like, can he continue to develop here? And I think people, kind of forget that he's been hurt through stretches. He hasn't really had the most traditional path to develop. And I think this is another guy that is going to develop kind of through year 2, 3, 4 in the big leagues. And we might not see the final product of Oneil Cruz until he's 28. And that might be an MVP. Or you might never get there. But even this version of him is going to give you flashes of a player that is just so unique and pretty much never before seen. Like, we talk about Elly De La Cruz, and Elly De La Cruz does a lot of things that we haven't really seen, and he hits the ball really, really hard. Oneil is on a different level when it comes to the bat speed and the impact that he is able to create. But he also is not quite as consistent, I think, in translating that into game power at this point. And that's the big wrinkle in this whole thing, because I know I can already hear the old head saying, "Oh, who cares about the exit velocities? He has 7 home runs and he's getting he's this OPS." I understand that and I agree, but it doesn't mean we can't marvel at somebody doing something on the field that we've never really seen before. To me, it's the equivalent of Blake Griffin when he first came up, just dunking out of this world, right? Doing things that we've never really seen in terms of the kind of posterizers that we would see from him. But it's okay, well, can he be more than that? Can he turn into more of a player? And he kind of did. And we had stretches where he turned into a more complete player. But that's kind of the question here. Is he going to be the highlight reel player, or is he going to be the more well-rounded player? It's too early to tell. He's 25. But even if he's just the highlight reel guy, it's great for Pittsburgh. It's great for baseball. And let's not use that as a reason to tear him down. I think that's where people are we're going to see this line shot at 120, but we're not going to see the error that he made and whatever. And that's a joke I'll make too from time to time. But sure, in reality, it's okay to promote the alien stuff that he's doing, and not have to always hedge it with, I know he's not the best player in baseball, but sometimes some guys do some freaky stuff and it's crazy, and let's celebrate it.
So can I say that I did make that, quip? I made that joke on Tuesday because the half inning before he hit that ball 120.5 in the bottom of the third, top 3, he called Jack Sawinski and left off of a pop-up, and he dropped the pop-up and 2 runs scored. So that's a huge mistake. Oh, but then he hit a ball 121 pretty much. It's the Simpsons meme, do you want to know the harsh realities of blah, 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 or do you want to see me sock some dingers? That kind of thing. It's, you can appreciate the good stuff. And I saw, I haven't listened to it yet, but I saw Nugget Chef, who is a great follow on Twitter. He's one of the hosts of Baseball is Dead with Carabas and Dallas Braden. I saw they kind of talked about Oneil Cruz and Mason Miller. And Nugget Chef tweeted, he understands the appreciation of what Mason Miller is doing right now, and thinks it should be even elevated from there. He can appreciate what Oneil Cruz is doing, but we need to temper that a little bit. Let's just appreciate both. And I totally understand where he's coming from, because Mason Miller is just providing more value with his never before seen stuff.
Sure.
Cruz is getting a lot of clicks, man. And at the end of the day, that was a game time double with 2 outs in the 9th. And, that is serious value there. Does it matter if it was 100 off the bat or 122 off the bat? No, it doesn't. But it's way cooler when it's 121.5.
100%. Yeah. Look, if we're working in a front office and we're trying to build a team, sure. I don't care that the game tying double was 120 versus 110. We're trying to win ball games. If I'm the manager, don't give a shit. But we're not. And again, it's the same energy with I go back to basketball, where it's if a guy has an unreal dunk, it's oh, well, I'm tired of seeing him always with the dunk highlights. He only averages 10 a game.
Still 2 points. Right.
I don't care. It goes viral. People want to see that. That's how you endear people who don't love the game, maybe, or aren't just that tapped into the game yet, to see some things that it's whoa, they got these kind of dudes playing baseball. Because there is a stigma to the game still of the casual sports fan, or maybe someone that's not even much of a sports fan. Oh, they just sit on their ass, they chew gum, they spit seeds, and they're the least athletic athletes. I think a lot of sports fans understand that it's different now, but at the same time, it's good to highlight hey, we got some freaks too. We got some aliens that would be insane in other sports in this game of baseball too. And when you go to the ballpark, there's a chance that you might see something special happen. And I think that is good for people to see and understand. And especially, I love that these players are in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Oakland, It's a little different because that's a whole nother conversation. But for the sake of argument, in terms of markets, Oakland with Mason Miller, like that is good for baseball.
But Bobby Witt Jr. in Kansas City, man, like we can extend it even further, right?
Yep, 100%. And by the way, they're playing amazing.
Yeah.
Only 2 hitters in Major League Baseball have an average exit velocity higher than Oneil Cruz. Can you name them?
Average exit velocity?
Average.
Ohtani.
Nope.
Really?
I believe not.
Judge?
Yes.
Okay. Not
If
Steve.
you get the other one, you can actually uppercut me the next time you see me.
Man, you're doing a punch me in the face bet now? That's my thing.
That's how positive I am. You have no chance.
I mean, Bobby Witt was hitting the crap out of the ball. Who is it?
No. What's weird is I'm not seeing on this chart that I have right now, I'm not seeing. There is Ohtani. Miguel Sano. It's a small sample. It's 35 pitches. I could really unqualify him, but I actually had made the cutoff at 25 pitches seen, and technically Miguel Sano is above that. But yeah, if you cut that off, the only guy ahead of him is Aaron Judge at 96.4. He's 95.7. And then there's a gap. Then it's Ohtani at 94.8. And then you have Vladdy Guerrero at 94.7. And this is why I will never give up on Vladdy. He is in the rare department. He's in the top power hitter block of Major League Baseball. He just has not been able to consistently capture that and turn that into production. But, I can't give up on a guy that hits the ball that hard. He is in the elite of the elite.
And I saw the reports on Wednesday. It's kind of funny that, like, we put out the mailbag on Wednesday morning, and then I see the reports Wednesday early afternoon that, the Blue Jays would entertain selling Bo Bichette or Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Again, both hit the open market after the 25 season. If you didn't listen to the mailbag, it was a fun episode. Like, hey, you can go listen to that if you want. If not, we talked about the Blue Jay direction. I believe if they want to build this thing, if they want to kind of reallocate, which is where we settled at, restructure, reallocate, I think it's keep Vladdy, extend him, trade Bichette, because Bichette's value on the market is greater than Vladdy, but Vladdy could also be that guy in Toronto, and he could be the one that, Vladdy, I don't know the exact numbers. I'd be dumbfounded if Bichette was selling more jerseys than Vlad Guerrero.
No, there's
Dumbfounded.
There's no way. And beyond that, I think you can see, I have more faith in Vladdy offensively turning it around, and Bichette's a guy that's going to move off his short for another team. There's a lot of wrinkles into that, but I'm with you. I don't think they should trade both. And I think more teams would be interested in Bichette because I think more teams are going to be looking for an upgrade on the left side of the infield versus first base /DH. And you mentioned it, like you could get a discount on Vladdy at this point and build for the future and at least throw fans a little bit of a bone. Before we get to the next topic, just something that came across my screen here, and this is from Talking Baseball on Twitter. The Cardinals have ended the Orioles' streak of 106 series without being swept. It's the longest streak in Major League Baseball since St. Louis's streak of their own of 125 series in 1942 to 1944. Baltimore was last swept in May 13th to 15th in 2022 in Detroit, 6 days before Adley Rutschman's debut.
Yes.
Cardinals are coming to life a little bit. Maybe, just maybe.
Yeah, what I will say is that series was weird, where you had a game delayed and postponed until the following day. Then they finished that one on Wednesday. And then I know there was a delay in the middle innings. Did they finish that one, or did they just call it final?
That's a great question.
Was that game shortened on Wednesday?
I feel like they would have had to finish it, no?
I'm looking at it right now. They finished it after a delay. So, yeah, true sweep. There you go.
I agree, though. The wonkiness of that, especially when you're on the road for the Orioles, is a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but they still got swept first time since Adley was up there. That's really unique.
I think it's more of a testament to how good the Orioles have been. And also, the Cardinals needed this in the worst way.
For sure.
In the worst way. And a lot of guys that they needed to get hits in this series got big hits. And I think that's something that hopefully they can build on, because I'm recording this from my girlfriend's place in Chicago, but this is a St. Louis family over here. They are big time. It's a lineage of diehard Cardinals fans, and every time I come here, it's what's wrong with our Cardinals, and I'm like, you got like an hour, and so I want to see them win.
I'll tell you what the spark was. It wasn't Ollie Marmol getting tossed. You think, the manager gets tossed, that could provide a spark. Lars Nootbaar got tossed. That's the spark. Newt needed to get tossed. Now we've turned over the page. It is a new era of St. Louis Cardinals baseball with an edgy Lars Nootbaar.
He seems like the chillest dude alive. So edgy Lars Nootbaar is lighting the fire.
I've got one more Oneil Cruz question actually for you before we move on. A comment. I love the Blake Griffin thing, and my thing is I feel like Oneil Cruz almost controls his destiny as to whether he's going to be Dwight Howard or Nate Robinson. Both guys lit the dunk contest on fire, right? And it's every year it was I can't wait for Dwight Howard and Nate Robinson. But one of them was one of the most dominant bigs of the generation, and the other was the dunk contest guy. So is Oneil Cruz going to be the exit velo guy, or is he going to be one of the superstars in Major League Baseball? And I don't know which one it is. I know which one Elly De La Cruz is, and this is my question. Elly is more than 3 years younger than Oneil Cruz, and we're talking about how the maturation may take several more years for Oneil Cruz. We're seeing maturation happen at warp speed for Elly De La Cruz.
Yeah.
I ask you, what separates them? I think it might be mentals. I think it might be Elly De La Cruz wants to be great right away. And that, I don't mean that to be an indictment on Oneil Cruz at all. I just think Elly is cut from a different cloth. This guy just started doing interviews in English. He's 22, man. I think he's just built different. I think that's a guy that functions in a different way and is ready to take on the world very quickly. Julio Rodriguez is another guy that did that. Mm-hmm. I think that's why Julio was so advanced at such a young age. I think Elly is one of the great ones here.
I couldn't agree more. I think and remember, we had Elly De La Cruz as our number one prospect in baseball when it was kind of up in the air. I think we were the only out with that. And the reason is I knew there was a lot of risk there, but everybody that I could reasonably talk to that had come across this guy or had scouted this guy, and every game I watched this dude play was as he played it as hard as he could play it, whether he thought he should still be in AAA or not, continued to play hard. He just only knew one speed. Oneil, we've talked about
it. We've seen that clear as day. He knows different speeds.
Yeah, he put it in neutral when he thought he shouldn't be in AAA. And I get it. It's frustrating, but at the same time, you got to be a professional. And I think Oneil's come a long way in that regard. And I'm not saying he's unprofessional, but we're comparing a guy that, looks like he's the next superstar of Major League Baseball, even though he's had his own volatility issues, versus a guy that has the ability to be, but continues to kind of toe the line. And I do think that the difference there is the mental and the work ethic and just some of the intangibles that you can't quite put into words or can't quite, put into numbers or anything like that. But I think when you see how ugly it was for Elly and for him to stay the course and to get to where he is now, I think that speaks volumes, and doing it at a younger age and all of those things. So I'm with you on that. But I also think Oneil, 25 years old, I think we're seeing him mature still. Every single month I check in, whether it's interviews, the way he goes about his business, he's kind of, you can speak to it, a shy guy. He's a little bit reserved. He's still kind of getting comfortable with just being a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, and I will tell you, it's easier to mature when you are the boisterous, extrovert that Elly De La Cruz is, versus when you're a shy, introverted type guy like Oneil Cruz. It might take a little bit because confidence will waver a little bit more. And Elly De La Cruz, I will never knock him for a lack of confidence. Ever in a million years. That guy might be one, he goes into LA and says he's the king. He says, I'm the king of LA.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's the mentality that those guys have to have, I think, when you're going to have those ups and downs. And the last thing I'll say on that front is the English side, scouts always will talk about that because it's not just you need to speak English to be good. That doesn't matter. It's a matter of you're balancing being a Major League Baseball player and learning another language because one, it's important enough to you to be able to communicate with your teammates, to represent yourself, publicly and all of those things. And again, it's not an indictment on somebody if they don't want to put that time in and want to focus on baseball, but it's more of it's extra credit. It's bonus points.
It's another box that you can check. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, if you were right now crushing a new language while we're doing all of this, I'd be like, holy crap, man! Like you're just operating on another level. Like
Right.
you could apply that to any job, any work in life at all. Like it's structure and its ability to operate and willingness to learn that you just don't see often. And a lot of times it's the players that end up trying to learn English or trying to learn another language that end up, really being those guys that shine through in other areas too. And I love the J-Rod, example there as well. A couple other things that I want to make sure we jump right into because, again, it's like the injuries are so frustrating. So I kind of want to fly through it, and then we'll get into the back end of some other fun and positive things. Xander Bogaerts goes down. It was giving the Trevor Story situation a bit.
Giving Trevor Story. Yeah, that was
what is that? Like, yeah, what is that? Is that like the kids say giving Trevor Story? You don't say giving the Trevor Story situation.
So I recently just learned what coded means. It was very Trevor Story coded. And like it's giving Trevor Story and it's Trevor Story coded means the same thing, which in essence is like, it reminds me of this.
Yeah, but couldn't you just say giving the Trevor Story situation?
I think so. But like,
why do you always correct me
to do it? I don't get it, man. Like, again, we're 26. We might as well be like 46. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, so it's giving Trevor Story. It feels so fucking
apparently
sentence.
I know it's Trevor Story coded, and apparently it is shoulder fracture, and he's hitting the IL. David Peralta up. I didn't see severity. I didn't see timeline. All I saw was shoulder fracture. He'll hit the IL.
I think it's not nearly as bad. I think because if it was as bad, I think it would be a little bit more definitive as it was for Story. Like I think it was like a specific weirdo named for. Whenever they got a name for the fracture, it's usually not good.
Yeah,
like the Liz Frank in the foot. When Chet Holmgren had that, that's what I found out about. Like the Liz Frank, I'm like, oh, he's toast. And Liz Frank, Otto, you're done for the year. They said at least 2 months with fractured shoulder. So not nearly as bad as the Story injury, but it still stinks. Bogaerts, though, I almost feel like it might be a good mental reset for him. Spin zone, am I reaching? Like he was swinging it a little bit better over the last week or so. Obviously, there's no world where not hitting for 2 months is going to be good.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely the obvious and objective way to walk away from this. But I don't know, maybe just getting away for a little bit and just being able to reflect on the mental side of things. Because like for me, I see a guy that just looks like a shell of himself out there. And I don't think you can cite age. Like he's 31, right? Like what is it that has really limited Xander Bogaerts through the first part of this season? It was a little bit of last year too, where he was streaky, but then finished so strong. It looked like he was back to who he was. I just have not been able to pin what exactly is going on with this guy. And maybe it was some other ailments we knew about the wrist. And maybe, again, 2 months of just not swinging a bat might help the wrist if that was still nagging him to a degree. I don't know. But it's been one of those situations where I just can't figure out what's going on with him.
So I can appreciate a good spin zone as much as anybody. So I really applaud the effort. I think I would lean more into the spin zone if it was his right shoulder, actually. But that's a right-handed hitter with his left shoulder. And much like whenever I see forearm news about a pitcher, I see lead shoulder news about a hitter, and I get worried. And, this is one of those where, like, how's he going to feel when he comes back? And I can appreciate the time off thing, and I can appreciate just like, hey, the reset, you come back, you feel fresh. I just don't know what fresh looks like when he's going to speed this thing as quickly as he can because it's May 23rd, as you listen to this. We're looking at, okay, he's trying to be back right after the All-Star break, right before the trade deadline. Padres, if they're in this position 2 months from now, they'll likely be trying to add, and they're going after it in the home stretch. He's not going to take his time there. He's going to make sure he's fully healthy, but he's not going to take the extra 2 weeks of R&R to make sure that he's ready to go. Now, he may take an extra 3 days because he's a vet and he understands that those 3 days are really important and hours matter in the grand scheme of injury and of baseball and the baseball calendar. I would feel I guess a little bit better about him, kind of like with the hard reset. Honestly, if this happened 2 months earlier, like when he first got to spring training, and it's like, okay, here we are chatting, and he's looking to be back end of May, beginning of June. I'm like, all right, then he can get his feet under him. It's fine. He's going to come back at a very stressful time for the San Diego Padres, and I think, yeah, he had the struggles, but also it's like he's going to try and push that shoulder to the limits right away.
Yeah. So I think that makes a ton of sense. The other thing that's interesting to me, though, is he finished the year so strong that maybe there wasn't that much reflection of like, where did I go wrong through the first half of the season? Maybe there was at the point where he hit it, and that's why he hit his stride in the second half. But I also think now 2 months off to really just look back at the first couple months of the season and say, where am I going wrong? Why am I not productive right now? He's not whiffing more than he normally does. He's still hitting the ball hard enough. He's never been like an Oneil Cruz EV darling. So looking into it, seeing what's going on with him and coming back a little bit more, maybe prepared to figure out what's going on and be productive, because they need him. I mean, the Padres need him. There's just no way around it. They need him to play like an all-star or close to it for them to hang around and have a chance here. And the other interesting part of it, though, is you bring up Peralta. I don't know how he's going to swing it. Every time I think he's done, he gives you a little bit of life there. But if they had somebody else that could plug in and give you a guaranteed league average offense, I'd say, oh, well, maybe the Padres won't miss a beat right now. But if Peralta is a bit of a gaping hole, it might be a problem. So we'll see. I know they've got to be really, really happy that they went out and got Luis Arias now.
So let me build on that, because you said they need him. And I love that you said they need him, because so much of the dialogue around this injury over the last 12 hours that I've seen is, at least they have a rise. Thank goodness they have a rise to play second. At least they have a rise. And, Cronenworth can play first and Kim's playing third, like short. Like, okay, great. It's not a replacement thing. Like, they were both in the lineup every day, and they do very, very different things. And we've noted Arias is not a good defensive second baseman. So you downgrade defensively at second. You also lose one of the more prolific doubles hitters of this generation of ball player. Like, over the last decade, there are very few players that have as much gap-to-gap acumen as Xander Bogaerts does. He is top of the line when it comes to run production situationally and gap-to-gap power. And Arias, he's top of the line when it comes to batting average. But singles and doubles are different. And you need both of them in your lineup. And you're missing a serious run producer.
So I have an interesting, thought on this whole thing, because you mentioned Peralta getting selected.
Yeah.
First of all, why did Donovan Solano have to sign a minor league deal again this year?
I don't know.
The guy is hit every single time, everywhere he goes. And they've got Solano on the bench. He can play a little bit of third. He can play a little bit of second. I think mostly they don't want him playing too much defense. But I think for the most part, he can play a fine third and a fine second. I would almost rather see these ABs go to Solano and you put Arias in the DH spot. Mm-hmm. Because Solano, I think people really sleep on how consistently productive this guy has been. And he played a lot last year and kind of just got swept under the rug. I don't think people realize he was a 1.2 F4 player, and that might not be crazy. That might not sound great. But when that's a guy that you're plugging in for an injury, usually you're just hoping that a guy's going to be replacement level, which is 0 points.
Literally zero.
Literally zero. He has been positive WAR every single year, pretty much since that insane season he had in San Francisco. He's been at least a 1-win player every single year. And now you plug him in there. So far through 8 games, by the way, when he does play, he's mashing again. He's been above average offensively every single season since 2019. And I know that he's more of a role player and you want to put him more in platoon situations and things like that. But I think platooning him and Peralta, to a degree too, if it's a tough righty matchup and you'd rather Peralta, sure. But I'd rather give a majority of these reps to Solano. And it sounds crazy, but with the way Xander was swinging it, they might get more offense from Donovan Solano right now. They need Xander to be Xander for them to be the team that they need to be to win the World Series, which is very outlandish. Let's just say make the playoffs. But for now, they might not lose that much offensively if Donovan Solano continues to swing it like Donovan Solano has over the last parts of 5 seasons, which In 458 games, he has a 112 WRC plus, hitting 296, 356, 412 in that span. I mean, the guy can just hit.
Let me also say that platoons in favorable situations go out the window when your $290 million man breaks his shoulder. Like, you have to figure out a way to fill that spot without saying, oh, well, like, we want this guy to be a platoon guy. It's like, no. Sometimes a platoon guy becomes an everyday guy when Xander Bogaerts breaks his shoulder.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that Solano gets more run and he gets more opportunity. And seems like he might. So that might be the guy that ends up plugging in for them a little bit and helping out there. And then, they have some options maybe in the, in the minor leagues that could come up and help them as well. But I mean, do you see Prowler making another aggressive move?
Yeah.
I think yes, because I think he's all in on this year. Like, they have to show something or else he's going to start to be on the hot seat. And I think with the farm system that they still have, which is still a solid enough one, I think we might see another move on the horizon. But, there's not a lot of teams that are just actively selling at this point. But with the pitching the way it is, I think they might go out and get another bat. And that would be fun. I hope they do.
Yeah, I totally see a world where they do this. And you know who jumps out to me? Wow. Right?
That would be a fun change of scenery candidate.
Right?
Who's just like, at this point, the Rays...
They're begging for an opening in the infield.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I would like that. Never know. And those are two teams that will trade before the trade market percolates. Like, they don't care. They're not waiting for somebody else. They'll make a move when they need to make a move. So that would be fun. A team that I know won't make a move despite this injury is the Boston Red Sox. They're going to stand pat, but unfortunately, Garrett Whitlock hurt again, and it just seems like that's going to be the trend with him here. He's just not going to be able to stay on the mound consistently, which stinks because he is on the mound and healthy. We've seen a guy that can be a really solid starter at the big league level. Have they revealed exactly what it is other than UCL damage, Jack? Like, all we've got was UCL damage.
No, so Alex Cora said in media availability that he has ligament damage in his throwing elbow. He already had TJ, I think, in 19 before he was a Rule 5 pick. So this would be second surgery. Now, there are a lot of alternatives. And what I read on MLB Trade Rumors was they're going to seek a second opinion, see if surgery is necessary. And if it is, there are a couple avenues that you can go. If it's slight, you can, kind of graft it with an internal brace, or it can turn into a second Tommy John. Like, we've seen the board sprayed when it comes to guys that have already had TJ that have ligament damage in their elbow. So have no idea what it's going to look like for Garrett Whitlock. The way I read that, though, is extended absence, probably done for the year.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Whitlock at this point, does it seem like bullpen situation now moving forward?
I guess, I think there's space in the game for a swingman, and I think he can be a damn good one. I think he can be one of the best ones in baseball, man. Like, multi-inning reliever, spot starter. Why not do that and have him be a Swiss Army knife? And I think that is a reasonable spot for, a guy that is having issues like that. And listen, I don't think Cutter Crawford and Tanner Houck are going to be lighting the world on fire all year long. But you tell me that you can mix and match Crawford, Bayo, Houck, a healthy Whitlock when he comes back in 25, hey, let's hope that he's good and it's, a couple week absence here and he's back at the end of 24 and you got Giolito back. I think the assortment is fine. Is it World Series caliber? No. Is it anywhere close to World Series caliber? No. But is it a bottom dweller in Major League Baseball? Is it a 90-loss team? Hell no, it's not, man. You got to be... I think you're fine with mixing and matching if you are Craig Breslow with this group that you have.
So if I told you that Brian Bayo would have a sub-4 ERA on May 22nd, and he would be the worst in the Red Sox rotation from an ERA perspective, what would you have said to me?
You're high. You're on drugs. I would have thought Bayo at a 3.8 would be the best.
And meanwhile, you've got Cutter Crawford at a 2.17, Pivetta at a 3.04, and that's with an IL stint in between. I think he'd be even better if he hadn't dealt with a little bit of that elbow discomfort. Houck with the sub-2, and Cooper freaking Criswell with the sub-3. it's just unreal. And again, I can't say it enough, but you got to buy into what's happening here in Boston from a pitching development standpoint. But it just, I really do feel for the Red Sox in terms of their fans. I don't feel for ownership at all. I don't care. But I do feel for the Red Sox fans, and I do feel for the ball club because they've been playing. You watch this team; they play hard, man, they're fun. I think it's a team that likes each other a lot and wants to win ball games, and I feel like they have this mentality of man, like we just keep getting. It's like the guy in the movies that gets like shot and just keeps going. Like I keep waiting for this team to hit a wall, and they keep fighting forward, right? Like. The frustrating part is I keep thinking, where would this team be if they stayed healthy? Because you have Trevor Story on the shelf, who I know he's not, I don't think he's worth the contract, but he's definitely better than what they've been rolling out at points in the infield. Tristan Casas is one of the best young power hitters in the game. I don't know what the deal is with Yoshida in terms of their usage. He's a net positive, no matter how you spin it.
Yeah.
And Giolito would have been a net positive, even if he wasn't performing. And now I'm like, man, I wish I would have been able to see what Giolito looks like, because if that's the guy they wanted to pay, the guys they're not paying look great. What would this guy have looked like? So eager for that. Like there's so many players that they have just had to weather the storm. And of course, Pivetta missing time as well. Like this is a team that's rolling out Dom Smith, David Hamilton. I love Grissom, but like Grissom right off the IL. This is a banged up team and a lineup that really looks pretty putrid at times, especially in the back half. That is surviving on the back of, Tyler O'Neill and especially Rafi Devers and Jared Duran, by the way. Holy crap. Not slowing down at all, just still home. And then again, Duran is that like cloth as well. Homers, steals, home. Like I love the brand of baseball that the Red Sox are playing right now. And doing this despite all of the injuries and ownership basically not really buying into you either. They could just, sit on their hands and say, oh, well, ownership isn't really back at us. We keep getting hurt. What's the use? And I just don't see that at all. I see either a young team or a mixture with some veterans that are hungry and playing hard and seem to feed off of being a Boston Red Sox and playing your home games at Fenway Park.
100%. Devers is as likable a borderline superstar as we have, like superstar, however you want to define him. You like watching Rafi Devers hit. I like watching Rafi Devers hit. And I love the Duran shout. Jim Boeheim in 2019, so one of his last couple of years, media availability at Louisville post-game, and he was asked about, guys being tired. And he was like, no, I believe if you're fit and you're a good basketball player, you can play all 40 minutes at a college basketball game. And he pointed to, he said, City, Bay, and Gillespie at Villanova, they play 40 minutes hard as shit. And that's how I view Jaron Duran. I think he plays hard as shit. So big fan of Jaron Duran right now. And it took a couple years for Duran to get to this point where he looks like a hard-nosed everyday player, and he is now, seems like an everyday player.
Yeah, had to beat his own lack of hustle allegations. And
yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
You grow up, though. It goes into the Oneil Cruz conversation, too, right? Like, Duran was about 25 years old, 26 years old when that happened. And now you're seeing him it always helps when you play well. But you're seeing him play at a harder, higher motor and just level. And it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's it on the injury front. Pump fake, tricked you. Actually, one more slightly negative thing. We're moving a guy that throws in the upper 80s to the bullpen. What's that going to look like? Kyle Hendricks going to the pen. Look, the Cubs bullpen is already like really weird. I think it's one of the weirdest bullpens in baseball. I don't know how to put it into words. I don't know why. I just think there's like almost a story behind each of these guys in the pen that's somewhat funny. And now you're going to have a guy move into the pen. You know what's exciting though? His stuff might tick up. So he might grab 90 once.
He's going to sit 89 now.
Yeah, what is that? Does that change things? What is his role? Is this the white flag in saying he's our mop-up guy now? Or are they going to actually find a way, or I should say, is the professor going to find a way to be an effective reliever in the upper 80s?
I don't know. This hurt because it's the end of an era, right? For some reason, I've talked about the 2024 or the 2021 trade deadline like 3 times in the last 48 hours, where the Cubs dealt Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, and Jock Peterson. People forget about the Jock Peterson trade. Bryce Ball, how good are you? But is he an affiliated Ball anymore?
I think he got picked up by somebody.
Did he?
I'll check on that.
He's a big man. He's like 6'6", 250. His nickname was Ball Bunyan, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. Bryce Ball, by the way, is in Double-A. Wait.
With who? With the Braves?
With the Phillies.
Oh, with the Phillies. Nice. So he's a fighting Phil.
He's hitting 180 in Double-A, yeah.
Tough eat. Yeah, but like, I don't know. I think that's the end of the era for Cubs fans. 2016, this guy won an ERA title. He was third in Cy Young voting. Like, he had a 2.13 in 190 innings. And I don't think it's the game. I don't think it's the game pushing this type of arm to the wayside. I think it's just like, this guy's 34 now, and he's on the last year of this very expensive deal. He signed through this year on a 5-year 71, pretty much. But Kyle Hendricks this year, man, like, listen, 30 and 2/3 innings. Opponents are hitting 362 against him with a 1048 OPS. It's nice because they're not gonna DFA him, and like that's not the end of it. They kind of mutually agreed with Jason Hayward to kind of buy out that contract. I don't remember the exact language to that, but it was like, hey, we're releasing you, and it's a mutual decision. I like that he's still got that active roster spot because you do need guys to throw when you're down. And like, I think Kyle Hendricks can be that. He's something like a month or two away from 10 years of Major League service. So he'll get to that, which is great. Counsel said there was no that was not part of the reasoning.
I was about to say, that's where my mind went immediately. It's like, oh, do they just clear up? Because that would kind of coincide with the deadline as well. It'd be a month out from the deadline. At that point, if they add a guy, do they DFA him? They might. If they need a roster spot because they added a couple guys to the 40, he's probably going to go. But it's nice to hear that wasn't the reason why. But even if it was the reason why, I would respect and appreciate the 10-year service time is. I mean, that's the ultimate achievement outside of winning the World Series or an MVP or whatever.
And he's won a World Series.
Yeah, but I'm like 10-year service time is in the Mount Rushmore of Major League Baseball achievements, and it's celebrated big time. And that's going to be special for him to hit that, even if it's not most exciting year ever. What's fascinating to me, though, is like it's not like his velocity is diminished. It's always been around this range. Yeah. So why is he not performing the way he used to? Is kind of interesting to me. And I kind of wonder, like, is there something that could click for him? And maybe that's why they're still kind of holding on to him, is he can work out of the bullpen and still try to find things, throw bullpens on the side, figure out what's going on, maybe tinker with some stuff and find something that can extend him a little bit. I mean, we always talk about guys that pitch into their 40s. Not going to happen with Hendricks, but guys like that, it's like Jamie Moyer. It was a cutter that really extended his career. And I know that it's a different profile and stuff, but maybe there's something that he can find here in the meantime that can extend him a little bit so that he can be a swingman for them. He shouldn't be in the rotation, but a guy that you could spot start, that could come in, get outs, and be worth the roster spot.
So we just did the Twins top prospects on the call-up, and we kind of talked about the definition of athleticism when it came to Charlie Soto, and athleticism on the mound, just kind of innate feel for your body. That's a shortstop that figured out a really good changeup when he became a pitcher full-time. What I want to make clear is, like, athleticism shows itself in a bunch of different shapes and sizes. And what I think Hendricks was doing in 2018 was very athletic. And it may not look like, clear-cut pitching athleticism. You think pitching athleticism looks like Paul Skeens. And, like, it does. But pitching athleticism is also consistency in the delivery, finding the same exact movement 120 times every fifth day. And that's what Hendricks was doing. Like, this guy was flawless. He was leading baseball in assist-to turnover ratio. He was perfect. He was not making mistakes in his delivery 100 to 115 times per outing every 5 days for years on end. That consistency probably just goes away when you're 34, and you feel each land on the hill a little bit more. So, like maybe this guy is just starting to feel the wear and tear, and the consistency kind of goes away because for him to be really good, he needs to be perfect. And dude, like, he was perfect for a couple of years there. He's a huge part of recent Cubs history. And I love that he still is wearing a Cubs uniform on the charter, showing up to the ballpark every day. He is still a Chicago Cub, and he will still throw for the Chicago Cubs. Is it coming in lower leverage? Probably. But man, he is a beloved figure on the north side of Chicago. And I love that he's still a Cub, and I'm going to love him as long as he is a Cub.
I love it. And I know that the guy's like right up your alley, just the way that he pitches and the way he goes about it. And what a career, regardless. You know, if this is kind of the end of the line at some point this year, I mean, to do what he has done is just remarkable. When the game has shifted, as you alluded to, so dramatically away from folks like him, to survive that, to weather that, I think is remarkable. And Hendricks is always going to be a guy that I think it's not going to have to buy a beer in Chicago. I don't think really ever, especially out there by Wrigleyville.
That's the thing, man. Like, I just saw Zach Davies get released from his minor league contract with Kansas City. Like, Kyle Hendricks still has a major league roster spot.
Yeah.
Like, he has survived the shift in pitching, which is really cool.
Yeah. Sometimes there's some things that you bring to the clubhouse too that can help you extend that side of things.
And some things that allegedly Zach Davies did not bring to the clubhouse that
yes, correct.
Had to cut it short.
Yeah. So we go into the next topic. I want to wrap with Hader because I want to really dive into that. So let's talk about David freaking Fry. Can you believe this guy? Can you believe this motherfucker? Like, I have no other way to talk about it other than like, what the hell is this guy doing? And this is why I love our sport, because sure, this might happen in some other sports. Guys break out all the time, but not like this. You just don't really see this. I just don't think other sports give you this kind of thing, where David Fry was a 7th round pick back in 2018 from Northwestern State.
Yeah.
Wherever the heck that is. I mean, he's put up good numbers in the minors, but at the same time, like, this guy had not made his major league debut until last year. He was 27 years old in AAA last year. Put up ridiculous numbers there, and then gets a chance and was fine. He was good, like slightly above average offensively, but not great defensively. And the Guardian said, okay, this is probably a good depth guy for us, right? Then this year, through 33 games, he's slashing 338, 476, 588. He's a 198 WRC plus. Has he had some batted ball luck? Sure. 450 WOBA, 360 X. I don't care. Like, even all of the expected stats are still way above anything I would have ever imagined this guy doing. And by the way, today, as we're recording this, he's 2 for 4. So actually, his WRC plus just went up to 203, and he's actually slashing 349, 486, 590. This guy's also played, by the way, 11 games behind the dish, 10 at DH, 9 in left field, 7 at first, and 2 at third. You kidding me? This guy's like, he's got to do it longer now, but this is like one of the better utility guys potentially in baseball if he can keep this rolling, because he's also catching for you too.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's really cool what's going on here. And I'm not sure if you heard it, but I brought up Ryan Ludis making the Cardinals bullpen with Peter on the show on Monday, I want to say it was. And like, Ryan Ludis has a crazy backstory. Like, he was a non-drafted free agent after the 20-round draft in 21, I want to say, at a WashU. And he was a 4-year guy at WashU, D3. And the Cardinals apparently viewed him as like a potential future front office candidate because he was a computer science major at WashU, and he's been doing some coding for the Cardinals analytics department, and now he's like a major league reliever. In a on-the-field way, like, he feels like Ryan Ludis, David Fry does, because he probably at some point got the semi-org guy tag on him, and now he's looking like a kick-ass player in Major League Baseball. This is a very similar thing to Davis Schneider, it feels like.
Yeah.
And I know how tight you are with Davis. I know how fun that story was for you to kind of share in real time last year. It just feels like, and like, Davis, it's great because you and Davis are like friends. This feels like the Davis Schneider that we don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, a stranger is doing the Davis Schneider thing in the AL Central.
Yeah. And those stories are just, there's just nothing better than it, right?
Yeah.
We get to see somebody live out their dream that, you know, at a certain point thought that and I can't speak for David Fry. I can speak for Davis Schneider.
Odds were stacked against him because
Davis Schneider wanted to retire, dude.
Yeah.
He was in high A playing once a week and wanted to retire. Called a friend who had recently gotten released and said, why would you retire? I miss every day I was in the clubhouse. I understand you're not making a lot of money and whatever, but like, ride that thing out. Somebody went down, started playing with nothing to lose, and the rest was history. Like, I'm sure David Fry has some, might not be that extreme, but has some sort of story similar to that, where I'm sure he wondered what the use was anymore. And he was putting up numbers, though, at every stop, but there's just a level of, people don't take you seriously as a prospect. Like, Davis was putting up pretty good numbers at each stop, too, but people weren't taking him seriously as a prospect. This is why I love the minor leagues, first of all, and this is also why I love baseball, is what other sport gives you these kind of stories? You know, and that's, I'm sure you get some of those in other sports a little bit, but guys that really, it felt like they had almost no chance. And I don't think Fry was that extreme, but I don't think thought he had any chance of being this good. If he does, I would love to have him on the show. Maybe he said, "Oh, I always knew I was going to be this good." And if that's the case, then like, I love that even more. Like, right. I love it either way. And it's just amazing to me because I think he is a huge, huge part of why the Guardians are playing the way that they are. Bo Naylor has been a massive disappointment out of the gate this year. Yeah, I still believe in him. I think he's a great player, super talented.
Offensively, defensively, he's been a blessing for them.
Yes. But, you know, this is a guy that we thought could really rake, and he will. I still fully believe in him. But if they don't have Fry to spell him a little bit behind the dish offensively, to fill into the DH role, to just be this utility piece for them, they'd be in trouble because they are a team that, and not in trouble, but they wouldn't be as good as they are right now. I mean, they're a team that kind of has to mix and match. Tyler Freeman, I don't like in center field. I know he made a diving grab the other day that like made highlights. I think it had like a 90% catch probability, or like 95, and he's laying out like horizontal to the ground. Like, and look, props to him. He's athletic and he's just survived out there. They're just mixing and matching at points with guys out there. Fry has been a godsend for them, and a big reason why they have been the team that they've been. If we were talking about like MVPs for teams under 500, I'm going to pull up the Guardian team stats. But with Quan on the shelf, I mean, where does Fry rank on their MVP list so far this season to you?
Maybe second after Quan. Like, there might be
ties.
I think Clase is ahead of him because of what he's done. But in terms of hitters, like, he's been their second best hitter, is he not?
Yeah, so you got Quan at a 1.9 WAR. Holy crap. If he didn't get hurt, he'd on pace for like 8 WAR.
I know.
David Fry at 1.2. Jose Ramirez at 1.2. Andre Gimenez at 1.1. Also a big reason why I think they've been good is him kind of bouncing back to a degree. Yes. And then Naylor at 0.9. He's been their best hitter offensively. And then I know he's not going to accumulate WAR defensively because he's not going to grade out as an above average defender anywhere. And that's why I think WAR can get a little flawed. It's like, this guy's plugging in at 5 different spots and not sucking for you. That is so that you can put other guys in other spots where they can excel. Like, that is so valuable, and it doesn't show up in WAR, and that's like one of the nuances that is kind of not factored in.
Yeah.
But man, like, he has allowed them to do so much, and I think he's been probably so helpful for Stephen Vogt. Every time he's got to figure out what the hell he's going to do with that lineup card as they try to figure out who plays where and how to put the best lineup forward.
For sure. Obligatory Josh Naylor, Isaac Paredes update. Whenever you mention Josh Naylor, I just have to do it. Like, Peter mentioned Josh Naylor, so naturally I go to both Fangraphs pages. We're kicking ass right now. Josh Naylor, as it stands right now, has a 132 WRC plus and a 0.9 WAR. We took both elements of that. Isaac Paredes, 166 and 2.0. We're killing.
I will say Peter was right, though, about Naylor's bat. Like, every time I watch this guy, I'm like, man. But to use that against Paredes is where he made that mistake. Paredes is, he's nasty, man. He's nasty. And that was the other thing I wanted to talk about eventually, and we'll do it on another episode.
Yeah,
I want to dive into the nuance of expected stats, and can we not just blindly slap like, oh, the WOBA is worse than the ex-WOBA, so he's going to regress. Because I saw so many people on Twitter when Isaac Paredes trade rumors were circling, so many outlets that were like team-specific outlets, really reputable ones saying, oh, I don't know if I want Paredes. Yeah, I don't know if I want him. He's due to regress. Nah, dude, we've seen enough. He's not regressing. This is who he is. And I'm going to dive into why certain players, that's going to be another feature piece that I'm just going to dive into, is why certain players can outperform the expected stats consistently and what to look for in those types of guys. Eventually, I'll get to that. Corbin Carroll's in the forefront right now. There's my what's going on with that guy, and we'll have that out at some point at the end of this week probably. Then I'm really excited to dive into that. But I'm really excited to dive into this final story here with what is, I think, just a really wild, and it makes sense because we've been talking about Josh Hader and the fact that he has not, he has always had guardrails in terms of his usage.
Yeah.
We never really knew why. And then here comes this entire story. You're more well-read on it than I am, Jack. I skimmed it before because I knew you wanted to talk about it. Yeah. But I know that this is something that you dove into a little bit more in depth. So I want to kick it to you, and then I'll kind of fill in, and we'll have a little bit of a conversation about it, because I think there are two sides to this, like there are to a lot of things. Yeah. And I'm interested to kind of flesh it out and talk about it. But if you want to set the stage here, I think it's one of the more fascinating stories we've had put out in a little bit by ESPN.
Yeah, so I'll link this story from Buster Olney on ESPN.com in the episode description, so you can give it a read. You can pause it, give it a read, and then come back to us if you want. But the essence is, if you don't have time to read it, understandably so, Josh Hader, after the 2019 season, entered his first of 4 arbitration years. He was a Super 2 guy, and he lost his arbitration case with the Milwaukee Brewers going into the 2022 season, or going into the 2020 season, pardon. At that point, Hader and his agent pretty much mandated the guardrail that Josh Hader is not going to throw more than an inning at a time until he gets a multi-year commitment from a team. The Brewers trade him. He had that same stipulation with San Diego. He said, hey, you're not going to throw me more than an inning at a time. You're not going to stretch me to 4 or 5. He signs a 5-year, $95 million deal with the Houston Astros as a free agent. And on Sunday, I believe it was, he threw 2 innings for the first time since pre-arb. He threw 2 innings for the first time since 2019 before he lost that arbitration case.
So he's actually, I wanted to pull it up to see how many times he's done it. He's done it 3 times this year already. So he did it on the 30th, he did it on the 14th, and then he did it on the 21st.
There you go. So the essence of what they're saying is, unless you commit to me for multiple years, I'm not going to commit to multiple innings for you.
Yeah. So here's the fascinating part about it is he loses the ARP case. So the first thought I have is like, oh, that's a little bit of spite.
Sore loser. Yeah, right.
The other side is this is a dude that was, what, a 17th round pick?
Mm-hmm. Failed starter in the minor leagues, pretty much.
Failed starter, signed for $30,000, was making the minimum, and up to that point in the first year of ARB, loses the ARB case. So he's making good money. He's making a lot more money than you or I, or
he was making $570. I think it was $550, $570 at that time.
Yeah, it's great money. But at the same time, I understand that he doesn't have the bedrock of money that a lot of his peers are. And pretty much, I'd venture to say almost every single person at the All-Star game that he's with probably had more in career earnings than him. I will say probably in that first All-Star game, he had more important things to worry about by the time that game was over. But beyond that, it is true. When you are one of the most dominant in the sport and you have the least earnings to show for it, I can understand why after getting beaten arbitration, he might feel that way. And I know arbitration is always a little bit, messy. And it seems like the Brewers have a trend of really letting it fly.
I've got birds on line 1.
Yeah. So maybe they really let it fly with Hader too. And I get it. That said, you're a freaking professional. You're a Major League Baseball player, and you're playing a game, and you're still getting paid more than $500,000 to do so, plus all of the other, the card money you're going to make and all endorsements. And I'm not saying he's had a ton of endorsements, but I'm sure he made some supplemental things too. He was doing fine for himself. It's still frustrating because he could be making so much more, and he wants to get that long-term deal. How many guys still just go out there and do it and get their bag, or don't? And it sucks. Sometimes they don't. but that just kind of, I'm trying to think like if we've been paralleling to other sports, and I could not imagine this in any other freaking sport. Like we were saying, oh, this is one of the good things that baseball gives you. This is also one of the bad things that baseball gives you. Kawhi Leonard is the one example I could think of, but that guy was already a proven superstar that also has like a degenerative knee issue.
Yeah.
And some other things that I don't think will fully be disclosed until he's out of retires, and then they'll say, yeah, he's had some really serious issues. There was nothing at that point that had been an injury to Hader. It was just, I want to protect myself and get my bag and preserve myself. That's where I get a little bit frustrated with it, because it's also like, you were a 17th round pick, man. Like, yes, you've bucked that and you've proven to be a really good reliever. You were a failed starter. Like the Brewers took a chance on you and gave you an opportunity, and you're in the major leagues now. And I'm not saying that he owes them his life, but I think he owes them his effort.
Yeah, in 4 outs.
Yeah. That's where it's a little bit to me. Yeah. Like, again, and I'm always going to side with the players here. And I think there's a lot of issues that we have that sway so much in the favor of ownership and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, no one's asking you to go out there and get, 10 outs 5 times a week.
No.
I don't think you have, it really limits a manager. It makes it difficult on everybody. Did other guys in the bullpen have to pick up the slack because of him and throw more? Like, there's so many wrinkles to it. And aside from the fact that just hurting his own team and spots, that I was thinking about it, like, if I'm his teammate, I'm saying, fuck this guy.
Yeah. Okay. So I love how you just kind of laid out both edges of the sword here when it comes to this. And that is where I think I was eventually getting to, where it's like, as a teammate, this really rubs me the wrong way. In short, like, I think both sides are simply put like this. Like, on the pro player side, on the pro hater side, pop off, King. Like, we didn't know your worth. We didn't know your value. Like, protect yourself. Go get your bag when the time is right. On the other side is like, and the point that I was making to you before we started recording was, I understand that these guys sometimes make $43 million a year. I understand that Scherzer and Verlander are 40-year-olds that have children that are making $43 million this year. They still have coaches, like a manager. And at the end of the day, like, we want to think that the relationship between high school player and high school coach and the relationship between pro pitcher and pro pitching coach are two entirely different things. And like, they are. The nuances are so different. But at the root of it, it's still coach and player. And you're still asked to do things. Like, you want to play this game until you're 40. You're playing a game, man. And the essence of the game that you learned when you're 12, 13 years old is like, you help your team win. And I understand preserving yourself for free agency, and you're going to get a bag, and you're going to make sure that you're firing on all cylinders at all times, because that's the way you get your max payday, and that's the way you accrue generational wealth for your family. But the other thing is, like, you're playing a game, your team's trying to win games, and Josh Hader being in the game for the Milwaukee Brewers was their best route to victory 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So help your team win.
Yeah, and what's fascinating to me is, like, you got Mason Miller out there, litany of injuries, I mean, it overcomes so much, and he's out there getting 4, 5, 6 out saves sometimes.
Dude, I think about
for a team that sucks ass.
That's the thing. Like, I think about Mason Miller. I think about Bednar, who has been pushed to the brink the last couple of years.
For a team that stinks.
And he's doing it because he's from there, and he wants to see the Pirates win these games. He wants to be on the mound to get the Pirates a win. And I think that Hader wants to be on the mound to get the Brewers, the Padres, the Astros wins. Now, like, and the fact that he's willing to do it now, I think actually helps his case here, because he's like, you know what? Now that I have the team that made the multi-year commitment, I'm all into this. I just think it was a matter of knowing your place. And I think that's like the really important thing that you highlighted, where, yeah, previously failed starter. Yeah, like later round pick. I think it's one thing if, this guy is already an $100 million closer. But man, like, he was in ARB1 when he put these stipulations down. Like,
exactly.
There are a billion guys in ARB1.
Exactly. It's not like you had, he was amazing, but it's not like he had, it wasn't, I think, the same level of proven, like I can start to put my own stipulations into things. And this is what I look back at too, is that 2019 team was pretty good. They lost in the single wild card game and got bounced. They finished 2 games behind the Cardinals in the Central. I don't want to put it all on Josh Hader.
No.
But Josh Hader being able to go more than 1 inning could have been the difference of 2 games.
Yes.
And that's where it's frustrating, I think. And I think guardrails would have been fair of like, I'm not going to go more than, 3 outs multiple times in a week, or like he could have done something reasonable, but like just, I'm never doing it. That cut and dry to me felt like spite, revenge. You won the war, but like you won the battle, I'm going to win the war. Yeah. And that's where I will say too, on the Brewers side, the fact that this didn't get out, like a frustrated manager not airing this out, the front office
credit to Craig Counsell. I'm with you.
Like that, how many managers would have aired that one out? Ron Washington would have been like, oh, well, I'm not even allowed to keep him in like this long or whatever. Oh, I got to manage my bullpen with handcuffs, because like he would have burned him. And Stearns, it seems like by all accounts, a pro's pro, but Counsell as well. And I think the fact that they protected Hader there too, and I'm sure they didn't want the story out for their own sake too. It's just another headache that you don't.
It's like, you're being ragdolled by an ARB1 guy. Like,
sure. And so I get that they don't want it out either, but I will say, like, there could have been times where they could have burned him there, and they did it. And the fact that now they come out and share it, I think is a testament to Stearns and Counsell. And I honestly respect the fact that Hader was willing to come out and be upfront and talk about it too, and say, hey, this is what I did. I know people might think it's selfish, but this is why I did it. And if you feel a certain way, you can feel a certain way, and it is what it is. And I think it is cool now, though, to see him come out and now in these 2-inning spurts just freaking shove, dude. I mean, 2 innings of no-hit ball, 4 Ks last time out. I mean, every single time, if you combine the 3 2-inning outings that we've got from him so far, is gone a total of 6 innings, of course, 11 strikeouts, 2 walks, no earned runs, 1 run total, 1 hit. Like, he is good in these 2-inning spurts too. And that almost makes him more frustrating. It's like, if he was doing this for the Brewers in 19, that team might have looked even a little bit different, but it is what it is. You can only look forward. And I think this guy now, if he's doing this, man, like he's elevating himself to back to that one of the most valuable relievers in the sport conversation. And with that, it looks like this could end up being a nice value deal for the Astros, as crazy as it sounds, at 5 years, 95, because we're saying, I think we even made a comment about it, like, oh yeah, well, you're paying him all this money and he can only go 1 inning and he won't pitch back-to-back days even sometimes.
Yeah. Now it's willing to extend.
And he's good at it and able to do it too.
Can I tell you, I think this 5-year stretch can cement his Hall of Fame case.
I was thinking about that too. I think it easily can. And that's fun. And we'll see, what it looks like with this Astros team, but he's been a big reason why they've been able to kind of right the ship over the last week or so. Like, he has been shutting the door, and he has been going, again, 2 out of the last 3 times we've seen him, he's gone multiple innings. So that's been huge for them, because their bullpen has uncharacteristically been terrible. Yep. At least with certain players that you would expect to be better. Abreu's starting to come into form, but I mean, Montero and so many guys are like, what's going on here?
Montero is like the biggest.
Now he's making up for it.
Yeah.
He's bailing them out. He's bailing them out now. After doing the opposite, now he's bailing out some of his rivers that have not been performing. You said Montero's what? Sunk cost?
I mean, like the biggest sunk cost deal in any bullpen in baseball. Like, find me a worse reliever deal than Rafael Montero at this point.
I think you can.
I don't think you can.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think we're good. We've already taken, hour 15 of their time?
Again,
dude. We got a problem. This episode again, 20 minutes.
20 minutes. We're just going to say hi and bye. But that'll do it for this episode. We will talk to you tomorrow. It'll be me and Jack again. It was really nice of Peter to go visit the Knicks in Cancun. I thought it was nice for him to go.
Another zing.
Console his favorite basketball team out there. I know he's not as big into the NBA, but, they got bounced, so it was good timing. We'll talk about whatever tomorrow. We'll have some more headlines. We'll have some stuff into and have some casual Friday topics. And Peter, if you're out there, you're having a great time. And we will talk to you tomorrow.